There's loads of hour-long videos available all about Horus Heresy. I'll tell you everything you need to know in under 5 minutes. The game is set in the 30k era where Space Marine chapters fell to chaos and created a massive civil war. There's a fantastic book series about it all, but essentially it's Space Marines on Space Marines. We know the outcome of the 30k era, but the premise is, wouldn't it be cool to play through what happened? Firstly, some interesting highlights. The game system is based on the 7th edition. I wouldn't assume that just makes it all clear, I didn't play 7th edition either. Data sheets refer to Universal Special Rules, which is a huge section of rules. Lots are familiar to 8th and 9th players, but there are loads of new ones only in this edition. Vehicle armour can be stronger on one side compared to another, and the weapons have firing arcs, so adds a nice dimension to the play. There are no strats or relics. It's possible that some weapons just aren't strong enough to wound an enemy. Guns don't have damage characteristics, and things have fewer wounds. Scattered dice are used to determine blast effects. Line of sight is body to body, not bits of weapons or equipment. And falling back isn't a standard mechanic. There are 3 familiar game types, narrative and campaigns, open play or match play. The book includes just one set of missions, and this feels very much like 9th edition 40k. Ideal points values according to the book are between 2,000 and 3,000, but you can play with whatever you want. However, there is a minimum size army to be allowed to bring a Primarch. You play on a standard 6x4 board, and there are 3 game phases: movement, shooting, and assault or charging. Morale and psychic shenanigans are built into each phase. The main difference to 40k is that it has reactions. This is a special ability to use in response to what the opponent is doing, and you get 1 per phase. An example is after your opponent moves, you can make a move, or you can shoot when they shoot. Reactions use initiative values on data sheets, and while you can see them as stratagem-like, it's a nice mechanic. There will be Legion-specific reactions, which adds a nice bit of flavour between the chapters. There are some standard 40k mechanics in play, as well as some very different ones. You roll to hit, and the higher your ballistic skill, then the lower the dice value you need to roll. Melee is a little different, as you roll off against your opponent's ability and check a chart. Wounding and saving are different depending on whether you're attacking infantry or vehicles. There are charts to find what you need to compare to give you your dice roll that you need to make. AP is different. It's a comparison against the armour value, and whether you beat it or not determines whether the armour save can be made or whether you have to use an invuln. When in combat, the initiative score on a unit data sheet goes to determine who fights first, and characters have a higher initiative. Characters actually attach to units, buff them, and they can't be shot. When the unit shoots or charges, then the character does as well. The Warlord is critical and is a great buffer, and at the moment there are only a couple of Warlord traits available. Each faction has some specific rules, as you'd probably expect. For example, Emperor's Children get extra initiative, meaning they often fight first, and Space Wolves can run and charge. Charging is a standard 2d6 and measure whether you get into contact. If you fail, you can still make a surge move of up to half the distance you rolled. There's no bonus for charging. The decision of who fight first comes down to the initiative score. The losing unit in melee, if it's still alive, has to make a morale check, and if they lose it then they fall back. Units that have fallen back remain pretty unusable until they've passed a check to carry on. Those units may keep retreating off the board until they pass one of the checks. Vehicles are pretty different to what you'd know from 40k. They have movement characteristics, and depending on how much they move depends on their shooting ability. They are impacted by terrain much more and lose wounds from driving through certain types. Armour values differ for each side of a vehicle, and shooting them from behind is actually easier to damage them. Weapons fire the way the vehicle is facing, so you have to pivot and use the firing arcs. If you shoot a vehicle, you have to beat their armour value to wound it. It's possible to not be able to wound something at all, which I really like. Destroyed vehicles remain on the table and become terrain, which seems nice and thematic. I'm going to look at the missions now. After a roll-off, the winner deploys their whole army first, and then chooses to go first or second. It's possible for the second player to seize his initiative and go first just on a roll of a 6, and that seems really strong. And missions have primary and secondary objectives, and you collect victory points by achieving them. This is all pretty familiar. So getting started, I'd definitely recommend you just start off with infantry to learn the rules, and perhaps a character. Then layer in a few other units like a dreadnought or a vehicle. Eventually you'll get to Primarchs, which are amazing, and you want to try and build your own Legion HQ for maximum flavour. Hope you find this useful, and watch out on the channel for my further thoughts on the game, but otherwise, see you soon. Bye.